Hey everyone, my name is Brett Rodino and welcome to a small tutorial video that I'm making about how urban planning works in downtown areas in large metropolitan areas such as this one. This is an American-inspired city that I have created that is based off of Buffalo, New York, and this is its downtown. Now, I've revitalized the downtown off-camera, off-stream, whatever, and I've really tried to make it a personalized build, and what I think that a lot of downtowns in city skylines too need to be, they need to be personalized. That is a very, very special thing. Downtowns should, in my opinion, have the most detail, the most attention put into it, because this is what you're going to be looking at first and foremost in a city. We're going to go block by block here. We're going to do a couple blocks today. I'm going to do a couple blocks to you guys. I'm going to explain what I'm doing, what the process is, what you should consider. And yeah, so from here, we are going to get started. This is the downtown. And the first thing that I want you guys to consider when creating a downtown is you want to look at your local roads, you want to look at your arterials, you want to look at your connections. A downtown is typically very dense, and the grid is very tight. Historically speaking, American cities, rather, dealt with something called urban sprawl. So a way that you could cram as many buildings as possible during areas of high explosive in population is you would build rectangular grids because they could hold the most buildings. Not to say that square grids don't work better, but typically rectangular grids can manage traffic flow a small amount better, but it's not as better. So now, what do I mean by road hierarchy, right? I just said a lot of words, and you probably don't know what they mean. So what is an arterial? Or what is a collector or a local road? Well, we can see this by when we go into the info view tab and we go to traffic. You might see that traffic flow looks completely terrible in the downtown, but it actually isn't as bad as the graph likes to show it. If we change it to traffic volume, you can immediately see where our arterials are. Now, if you know anything about arterials, you know that typically they connect from our freeways, which is this beltway that I constructed. A beltway is basically a highway that goes through the outskirts of the city and then connects into the city. So through traffic can travel around the city, while people going into the city can take on-ramps to go into it. So anyways, our arterials connect from our highway, and then they go all the way down into this recreation of Ellicott Square. And then this goes like Bellwood Street, and then we have Summerfield Street and Butler Street and Arborview Street. These are all my arterials. And you can see that the traffic flow is much, much, much higher here because they are arterials. And then they go into our collector roads, which are on Valley Street. And then our local roads, which go into like Bedford Street and Fairview Street. And they have orange, so the traffic volume is lower. Arterials are built for high amounts of traffic volume. When you're designing road hierarchy, there's no such thing as creating a road that is fast and can keep small amounts of traffic off the road. That's not how it works. You have to choose one or the other. So that's why road hierarchy exists, right? I cannot have a road that supports a high volume of traffic but have it be at a low speed, and vice versa. So with this in mind, you can definitely see how traffic volume is affected. Now, when you're planning out a city, always choose the traffic volume. Do not choose the traffic flow. City Skylines does not calculate traffic flow correctly. It does calculate traffic volume correctly because it just simply calculates how many cars are on the road. And this is what most cities do when they're planning out road systems, when they're planning out areas for redevelopment. They look at the traffic volume, not the traffic flow, because an area can have high traffic flow and everything could be red, but there's no traffic on the road. And that's simply because there's just cars driving on the road. Traffic volume is what you want to look at. And this is from a game perspective. In real life, there's a lot more things in consideration. There's transportation in consideration. There's all types of things. And that's what we're going to be talking about next. So the next thing is looking at our transportation network. So if you have City Skylines 2 and you're following along with me on City Skylines 2, I would highly recommend looking at the Transit Overview mod. It's a great mod that allows you to visualize your transit networks as a real sort of transportation map. And I'm going to turn this on the map mode, avert your eyes. This is what we're looking at. We have all types of bus lines, we have train lines, and we have a tram line. And you can see how I'm making sure that there is also a hierarchy in where the transit networks are, right? So first I have the MWTA, the Downtown Express, and then I have the Central MWTA, which just goes around the downtown, and then I have this Downtown Express tram route that goes from the sort of edges, or I'd say like middle area of Kenmore, all the way down. And you can see how it's basically collecting everyone from the suburbs here, and it's bringing it all the way downtown. And then eventually, I'm pretty sure from what I remember when I made this Downtown Express route, it stopped at Victor Park. From here, you could wait for another tram, which is the MWTA Central Line, and this Central Line will take you around downtown, and then eventually it'll take you to the train station. And this is kind of what it looks like. So let's take this. Let's say you want to take the bus from, let's say, from the town of Kenmore. Let's say you take the train to work, right? And you don't own a car. So if I lived on Garland Street, or really this entire community right here, I could get out of my house, walk all the way over to this bus station. I could take the Kenmore route, or the Kenmore Blackrock loop, but the Kenmore Blackrock route just connects Kenmore to town of Blackrock. So you'd take Kenmore, preferably the clockwise route, because that will take you this way. So this one takes you along our local roads, and then eventually it does filter into a collector road. So it's not an arterial, but it is a collector. And then it'll bring you all the way down. And then after a little bit of time, you might get off at this stop, or you could continue to take the bus over to here, to where you could take the Stampede route, which is the university route, that does in fact stop at the train station. Or you could get off at this stop, you could take the tram all the way down to here, and then you have two options. You gotta take the tram, or you could get on the bus again and then go to here, or you could even walk. And this design principle is what most cities use for their designs, because it's fast, it's efficient, and it gets people to where they need to go. And that's why I don't really have a lot of traffic issues in my city, because people take the bus. And as well as the fact that all my bus routes are free. The intercity bus routes cost $2, but all my city routes are completely free. And this is also because I'm just making a lot of money. So if City Skylines 2 would, in fact, cooperate with me. There we go. All right, finally. We can see that I'm making $12 million a month. Now, I'm not going to go into the depths about how you're going to make a lot of money. That's for a different episode. But that's what you kind of got to keep in mind. Again, like even looking at Central Bovidae, there's almost 8,000 people living here. Lockjoy, there's 15,000. In Victor Park, there's 500. Ember Creek, there's 8,600 people. Downtowns have very narrow streets. They have very tight grids, as I mentioned before. So getting cars off the road as much as possible is your goal. And even though there's a lot of people who live here, there's also people who might work in the suburbs. You know, I have a lot of supermarkets. I have strip malls. I have the university here. There are people that work over there. So you want to be able to make sure that people can get to where they need to go in a way that isn't obstructive. So, what exactly makes a great downtown? Well, I told you, getting people off the road, making it walkable, and then, of course, good road hierarchy. We've gone over these, but now we got to talk about jobs. Let's look at unemployment. Unemployment's sitting at 8%, which, to put this into perspective, during the Great Recession, the unemployment rate was around 8% in the United States. So, we do not want this. We do not want this. Our goal by the end of the series is to get down to 4% unemployment, which is very much doable. And a way that we're going to be doing it, you can see it just jumped up to 9%. So we got to get moving now. So what are we going to do? Well, first, we got to make some jobs. That's what we got to do. So I would recommend installing the mod Company Changer. I think that's what it's called. And this will allow you to not only edit the company workplaces that it has, but also edit the company itself about what it produces. Now, of course, we're not going to deal with what it produces. We're going to deal with the actual employees. City Skylines does a really bad job at representing how many people actually work in an office building. I think the baseline for, like, say, an office building that was this, originally, this was only 100 people that worked here. Does this look like 100 to you? It doesn't. This is a skyscraper. So I changed it to 350. Naturally enough. Yeah, this was 180. So that's definitely not very good. So, of course, you know, we're going to go around and we're going to edit them. But, of course, the big thing is, right, we need to get a reference for the skyline that we want. The skyline that I want downtown Buffalo. Downtown Buffalo doesn't have a lot of skyscrapers. They're not historically known for their skyscrapers, like mid-rise, not necessarily high-rise. And the thing that I want is I want a central point. So this observation tower, well, this isn't in Buffalo, this is in my city. So I want not a single building to go above this top part. This doesn't really matter because this is more of a cell tower. You can't really see it. But if you're in an observation tower, you want to be able to look over the whole city. Now, of course, when we're inspiring it off of a North American city that doesn't have a lot of skyscrapers, I kind of want to inspire it, especially if it's off of Buffalo. I want to inspire buildings that are very spread apart, like this. And I want to emphasize parking. The more cars... Okay, here, I'm going to say this. Downtowns have a lot of parking lots. They are hidden. You don't usually see them, but they are everywhere. They're either underneath buildings because the developer added them, or they're right next to it because the city owns them. And this is a good example right here. I could add way more parking spaces here, but I'm not going to do it simply because of the green space and also because this is part of the school campus. And that's another thing you want to consider as well, but I'll get to that in a second. Parking spaces reduce traffic. The more people that are able to park their car, the more chance that they are to just simply leave the car there and then walk. And their car will sit there forever. These are what's known in City Skylines 2 as abandoned vehicles, and they will sit there forever. Citizens will not use them, and they will not get rid of them. This is until they drive their car like one more time, and then it despawns because they realize that public transportation is faster. And you can see this. We have all of these cars. All of the lots are filled. There's no parking fee, at least anymore. This is because I believe that this would probably be owned by the developer, but it would be subsidized by the city. So the city's paying for the cost and the upkeep of the parking lot itself. And so people are parking their cars here, and then they'll get out of their apartment. Instead of taking their car and driving to work, they'll just get on a bus. So anyways, let's talk about what I was talking about earlier. Campuses and property lines. When you talk about property lines, it's good to kind of create a frame of reference about what exactly you want. In school campuses, for example, even very urban schools, they do have property lines, and these are greenfields. Typically in schools, they are built near or on a greenfield site. Greenfield sites are different from brown sites, and brown sites are basically industrial uses. They're very complex to build on, but greenfield sites are made specifically for, you guessed it, environmentalism, conservation, make sure that the city remains green, make sure it remains sustainable for a community, make sure that it looks pretty. You don't want a dirty downtown, you want a pretty downtown. So a school campus having a little bit of green space for the kids is great, because not only will you not have the kids staring at a skyscraper from their classroom window, but you'll also get them to have an area where they can play, where they can, they can get off of school and they can take the bus, they can cut through the grass, they can have a picnic here, there's tons of different things that you can have. There's tons of different leisure activities. And now something that you want to do, install the network lanes mod, or any net lane mod that adds fences, because we're going to improve this. We are going to add a fence that's going to go around, because the last thing you want is a kid running out into the road and getting hit by a bus, all right? That's very expensive. We don't want to deal with a lawsuit, all right? So we are going to create a fence that's going to go around. And now technically in most municipalities, it's not usually warranted to build a fence right next to a sidewalk because it's hostile. But because it's near a school, it doesn't really lower the land value a lot, because technically people will look at this fence and then they'll look at the school and they'll be like, oh wait, the kids are safe. All right, I don't really care that much. So we're going to create a nice fence that's going to go around the property line here. And now the kids are nice and safe and they won't get hurt, which is great. We're going to add a little bit of landscaping as well. And that looks pretty, doesn't it? That looks nice. So now from here, I want to edit this block. This block is very dense. It's very busy. There's a lot of things going on. There's around 500 people who live in these very tight spaces. Just simply put, we're going to get rid of them. We're going to remake them into something that actually is nice. I don't want to stare into my neighbor's window. That's the goal here. right? Now, this is an office building, so we don't have to worry about people staring into people's apartments because most of the time these have one-way windows where you won't be able to look in, and then vice versa. So, especially Japanese buildings specifically, they usually have that kind of technology. Especially American buildings, more modern American buildings. This kind of looks like a modern American building, so I'm not too worried. So we're gonna go into find it and Plop the Growables. Plop the Growables is an excellent mod. We're going to be using this throughout the series, so make sure to get that if you want. So we are going to, before we do anything, we're going to check our settings. We're going to pause the game, we're going to go into options, and then we're going to go into Plop the Growables. And you see this option, Make Historicals. Make buildings historical when plopped. Make sure this is on. Because if not, if you have a level 1 skyscraper and that goes to level 5, that could add 10 to 20 stories, and it makes your skyline just look really busy, really tall, really, I don't know, cyberpunk-esque dystopian. You don't want that. So, naturally enough, we're going to make sure that everything's historical, so the buildings we plop now will remain the way they are forever. So we're going to fill out this lot. And that looks pretty good. So now from here, we're going to go in and we're going to add parking, just as I mentioned before. This adds 20 spaces. That's perfect because there are around 24 people who live here. And if you don't have room, you can park across the street or whatever else. So now from here, we have a couple of high-density businesses. Now, this is Victor Park. This is an office park. So a lot of the buildings here should be office buildings. And what I'm looking at, looks like we have some high-density businesses. Now, that's a little confusing. So we're going to get rid of them. And then we're also going to get rid of a couple of these trees. We got 724 employees. That's not the greatest, especially considering that our unemployment rate continues to get worse each minute that I keep yapping. So we're going to kind of create our own little areas. So first, I don't know why that was clipping, so we're going to move this over here, and I want kind of each office building to have its own little shape. This will be the tallest building, so nothing should overpower this. So we're going to go in and move it, which is another mod that's going to be very useful. And we're going to add that in, and then we can just give it a second. There you go, let it update. We're going to add in a couple landscaping around here. So then we're going to go into our office buildings, and we're going to type in high. And this is going to give us initially skyscrapers. I know they look scary, but don't worry, because most of them are pretty small. And I want a very wide, boxy building here. I think that that would really complement the rest of the area. And then, of course, this is an office park, so I assume park should be here. We have 2 parks here, but I think more would really bring out the area. So we're going to add a couple. Business parks create a huge amount of economical prosperity. They create a large amount of business. So it's very, very important that they make it sure that it looks pretty and it looks attractive to developers. Without that, you kind of fall flat on your ass. So from here, we're going to add in just a couple more bits of landscaping, as well as a few more London planes. Maybe an oak here. Go down and just add a couple more. These were definitely planted. These were definitely not here originally. especially with the manicured grass. And that looks substantially better than it did before. So now from here, let's check our unemployment. Let's see. It's continuing to increase, but that's okay. That's because we're going slow here. This will definitely have 250 people, so let's add that in. Now from here, we have a couple of extra things we got to do. We have to, of course, formalize our skyline. So we're going to do this. While we're at it, I think we're gonna add 500 people here. I never liked the density that City Skylines has. Like, the population I have now, I like to multiply it by like 2, because at a certain degree, it's just, you know, lack of resources. Which it's funny because we produce media. Also, typically there's a lot of people who work in these kinds of areas, so I think 500 employees definitely makes sense. But overall, though, I would say that this would be a success. We managed to really revitalize downtown. We made sure that everything actually looked coherent, that that things actually matched, that things looked all right in terms of their structure. And unemployment is absolutely tanking now. We have 5% unemployment, which is around Buffalo's actual average unemployment, which is 5.3, or I think 5.4% is the unemployment rate in Buffalo, in real life Buffalo. So I think that that is definitely a success. I think we did a great job using the mods that we had. And overall, yeah, we're definitely not done with downtown, but I sort of just wanted to give you guys a tutorial about how to actually make different office parks, how to make sure that things worked, and what mods you can use to actually benefit your gameplay, that it doesn't feel like cheating, you know? Of course, I was very conservative with my numbers. I wanted to make sure that things, you know, we weren't over-employing in downtown so we wouldn't attract too many people, because then that can cause traffic backup. As well as making sure that I'm not directly cheesing the game by creating a bunch of high-paying office jobs that make me a bunch of money. Overall, though, this was a fantastic tutorial. I actually, in my opinion, I feel like I explained things all right as best as I could, given my expertise on the topic. But of course, if there's anything that I missed, if there's anything I need to change, please let me know down in the comment section below. And until next time, everyone, my name is Brett Rodino, and it was an honor learning with you.